One of the things that most frustrates me about my own profession is that most, I could say the majority, might even say most, land surveyors will find problems when they go to do a survey, boundary or land title problems, and then they'll walk away. They'll leave the client with those problems. So they'll deliver the survey. A lot of times they'll get paid, and they'll say, "Hey, client, here's my survey." Maybe they tell the client about the problem. Maybe they let the client read the survey and figure out the problem on their own. But they leave the client with that problem with no path forward. So, for example, surveyor goes out, they do a survey, they come back with the survey, and they tell the client, "Hey, the building's 4 feet over the property line. Uh, so sorry to bring that bad news," and then they wave goodbye and disappear into the sunset. That's a really horrible thing that land surveyors do, and I see it happen all the time. And when I say all the time, I mean all the time. I would say at least once a month, maybe a couple times a month, we get calls from somebody that's gotten a survey and they have a problem, and the surveyor, is not answering the phone anymore, and they don't know what to do. So, a lot of times on these videos that I do, I will joke about civil engineers. I'll give civil engineers a hard time. But one of the things that I really respect about a good civil engineer is that they will use innovation in their design skills to creatively solve problems for the client. And that's a beautiful thing that civil engineers do. Other engineers do it too. And it's something that land surveyors should work harder to imitate, right? Land surveyors need to do a better job of being problem solvers. So often land surveyors are just reporting facts. And that's good. Land surveyors need to do that. They need to report facts. But at the end of the day, all of our clients are trying to accomplish something, right? Most of our clients at Redefined Horizons are trying to build something or buy something. And so if you just report facts and reveal problems without any recommendations for how to solve those problems, you're not helping your client get to their goal. So what types of problems can a good boundary surveyor help you solve? I'm going to give you four. There's probably more, but this is my short list. 4 things that a good boundary surveyor can 4 types of problems a good boundary surveyor can help you solve. So number 1, he can help you solve boundary problems. Okay, boundary problems, when I say boundary problems, I mean a problem that has to do with the difficulty of locating a property boundary on the ground. So you've got a boundary that's described in paper, either in a deed or on a map, and there's difficulty for whatever reason of locating that line confidently on the ground. The second type is land title problems. So that's when there's a cloud on the title, or you're not sure who owns the land or what land is owned. The third problem is land use regulation problems. So an example is a building setback violation or an unclear land use regulation. And then the fourth problem is design problems. And I mentioned earlier, that's typically the domain of civil engineers, but a good land surveyor, if he or she's been around long enough, will have enough knowledge they can offer suggestions that may help solve a design problem, although you should always work with a licensed engineer on the final solution to that. So why is this important? Why am I talking about this in the video? Why do you care? Why do you care if your boundary surveyor can solve problems or not? A lot of surveyors would say, "Hey, that's not my job. My job is just to do the survey. I'm not getting paid to solve problems." I'll tell you why it's important. A couple reasons. One is, most low-hanging fruit in commercial real estate has been picked already. I tell that to people a lot. I regularly talk to folks that are going to do some kind of real estate project, and they're often inexperienced. There's a lot of get-rich-quick books out there that try and convince you should be a real estate investor or developer. And what I tell people is if you think you found some wonderful real estate opportunity, some opportunity in real estate to make a bunch of money, you're probably wrong. Because if it was that great of an opportunity, somebody would have exploited it already. As a general rule. There can be exceptions to that, but they're rare. And you're probably not smarter than everybody else. So, a lot of if you're buying a parcel and you're getting a great deal on it, you think you're getting a great deal, there's a good chance there's a problem with it that you haven't discovered. And so what that means is if you can find a consultant team that can help you solve problems in real estate, then that opens up opportunities for you that other people are going to miss. So for example, a lot of people may pass on a particular parcel. Maybe you got a parcel, for example, that's next to a freeway interchange. It'd be a great retail site, but there's some problems with it. There's some title problems or some boundary problems, or maybe it needs a rezone or something. And so a lot of people don't buy it because of those problems. Well, if you have the ability to identify a fix to the problem and come up with a solution, implement a solution, and the math works, you know, the profitability works, then you've just created an opportunity there that other people have missed. So that's one reason it's important. The other reason I think it's important is not oftentimes, but occasionally in real estate, someone will find a parcel that's just a good fit for their needs. They want to buy it, but there's some, you know, there's some fly in the jar, in the peanut butter jar, right? You open the jar of peanut butter, your favorite peanut butter. There's a big fly on the top, right? Ew, that's kind of gross, right? Well, what you want to do is you want to get the fly out of the peanut butter, right? Grab a spoon, get rid of the fly. And so it's a shame when somebody has to pass up on a parcel that would otherwise be a great fit for their needs when there's a problem that's relatively easy to solve if they just have the right help, you know, if they have the right kind of professional help in them. So that's the other reason why it's important. So when you think about those two reasons, it's really disappointing when boundary surveyors don't take advantage of the opportunity to help their clients solve problems, because it can make a really big difference. So it's a great way to provide value. So I want to just give you a few examples. I've got 5 of them here. I'm just going to run through and just take a minute or two for each one, just so you can understand the type of thing I'm talking about. So we had a project we worked on up in the foothills. It was a historic hotel, and the land description in the deeds were some of the worst I'd ever seen. And the buyer was trying to get a loan to buy the hotel, and the lender and the title company were freaking out a little bit because nobody knew where this property was on the ground, and did it cover the buildings, and was the driveway in the right spot? And so that's something that my partner and I were able to help them with. We did a survey. We figured out where the problems were in the deeds, in the land descriptions for the deeds, and then we offered a potential solution. We said, hey, we can create a corrective land description. We can monument it on the ground. We can quiet title to it. We can get this all cleaned up. Okay, we had a similar situation for a landowner along a river in Stanislaus County. They owned a sizable chunk of land, but they had some major problems in the land description for their deed, and they've had a couple surveyors involved, and nobody identified the problem and helped them solve it. And so we got involved, and it turns out, that some of the property they owned with a couple buildings on it was mistakenly left out of the deed. And we say, hey, no problem. This is solvable. We can work with a good land attorney. Could recommend you a good land attorney. We can prepare a proper land description. We can quiet title to this land. We can monument it, get it on a map at the county. Everybody knows where it's at. We had another project we did. It was a land title survey we did a few months ago, and this parcel was severed from the public road, so that they didn't have legal access to the public highway. And again, this was a transaction that potentially could have blown up the deal. And so we got together with the lawyers and the title company. We said, hey, this is solvable. You know, we can write you an easement over the part of the driveway that you need that connects this parcel to the public highway. Go to the neighbor. The neighbor's agreeable. They grant you the easement, and you give them a little bit of money. They grant you the easement. Get that easement recorded. Solve your problem, right? Just take care of that title problem. I had another example. A survey I was working on for a new power station, and there was an existing lease for the site of the power station that hadn't been built yet, and we got hired to do a survey. The client was trying to get a construction loan so they could start construction on the facility, and the attorney that had prepared the lease description, it was just, you couldn't put it on the ground. There wasn't enough information to put it on the ground, and so we told the client, hey, this is fixable. You know, let's meet with the fee owner of the property. Let's figure out where this lease boundary was supposed to be. We'll write a description for that can be put on the ground. We'll get this all cleared up. You'll be able to get your loan, build your facility. And then another example, this is a project we're currently working on, but we're doing a subdivision, and there's a portion of the owner's property that is pretty steep. And so we were looking at that. What do we do with it? You know, if we decide to make a parcel out of this part of the property. You know, is it buildable? And so, make a long story short, it's this portion of the property is kind of up on a knob, and it's pretty steep on the sides of the knob. And so, you know, the conclusion was we probably couldn't get a driveway up to the top of the knob where the best building pad location would be. But said, hey, you know what? We could use a retaining wall, and we could get some off-site parking along the street, and then you know, we can do pedestrian stairway up to the building pad location. And you know, now that means that this parcel wouldn't have a 2-car garage, but it's in a very nice neighborhood in a area where there's a lot of demand for housing. And so somebody probably would buy that. Somebody buy that parcel probably and put a house on it, even if they couldn't pull into their garage. And so that's an example of a potential design solution. You know, you'd have to work with a civil engineer on that, but that's taking a piece of property that might not otherwise be buildable and turning it into a buildable, sellable parcel if the math worked on the design. So it's really important that you work with a good boundary survey private line planner that can help you solve problems, that isn't just going to find problems and walk away. That's one of the best methods to making money in commercial real estate, is taking properties that other people don't want to touch or won't touch because they don't understand how to solve the problem, getting those problems solved, you know, having the patience and the persistence and the insight to do that, and then finding those opportunities that other people pass up.